Welcome to the Den. Welcome back to the Den, everybody. It is currently 11:51 p.m., but I have a job to do, and you have a podcast to watch. I'm very excited to get into this week. Today we're again covering, this is week 15 of the NFL season. Please, 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 on the TikTok comments, Instagram comments, YouTube comments, give me suggestions. I want to cover what the fans want to hear. I don't just watch football, UFC, soccer, freaking golf. I'll cover anything. Guys, I promise I want to give the fans what they want. But because we have had no requests or anything like that, why don't we just start with the NFL season looking at our first game? And this is going to be Sunday Night Football. Minnesota Vikings went in to AT&T Stadium and defeated the Cowboys 34-26. Cowboys needed to win this game, right? They needed to get a win in this one. They needed, if they wanted to keep the playoff hopes alive. Technically, yes, I think they're still in the race. They could beat out the Eagles for the NFC East, but it realistically is not going to. Eagles would have to lose out, but they didn't. Dallas moved to 6-7-1. Vikings moved to 6-8, and it's hard because the Cowboys were on such a good streak. They were building this momentum, and it all kind of came to a screeching halt. And this game was really the exclamation point on that. I thought that Dak played solid, 23 of 38, 294 yards. You saw him hit a lot of nice throws over the middle. A guy we talked about last week, and Ryan Flanoy. I was butchering that name last week. Yeah, Ryan Flanoy, he played solid. CD was going off. Obviously, he led their room with 111 yards. Excuse me, but this game just kind of showed you that Dallas isn't ready. They weren't playoff caliber. Vikings are a team that haven't been able to beat the good ones this season. And with this win over Dallas, they were able to beat a team, but I think that kind of proves that it wasn't one of the good ones. I think the Vikings had a lot of bright spots in this one. You look at their defense, like this defense that has been a little lackluster compared to Vikings defenses of the past, the ones that would lead them to the playoffs. But this game was especially good from them, especially because you're looking at them going against a Dallas offense that's probably been top 10, top 5 maybe in the league, been able to dice up any defense. And yes, they put up 26 points, and that's even with 2 Brandon Aubrey missed field goals. But their identity, their hallmark is their pressure. And a lot of this year, teams have been able to beat it. But fortunately, the Cowboys, they couldn't. I thought that Dak didn't do a terrible job handling it, but they were sending pressure almost every other play. And the squad, the names, they're not as well known on that D line, but I mean, you have guys like Van Ginkel and Blake Cashman that are just linebackers, but they just do enough to give those guys on the D line plenty of time to get in, which they do not need a lot of, and especially in this one, you've got a Dallas O-line that was a little hurt and has been streaky all season so far. I thought Javonte Williams was pretty good, and I think they probably could have leaned on him a little more in this one. He went 15 of 91, but still, I mean, if they did, put their identity in Williams, Vikings defense was playing good enough probably to handle it. Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason, who I'd been saying they need that going. Last week they were able to succeed so much. Their play action was booming because Jones and Mason were having good performances, but they didn't even need that this week. J.J. McCarthy didn't need the run game to have a good one. J.J. McCarthy, 15 of 24, 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. And he looked like a new version of himself. You could call him 9 if you really wanted to. This looked like a version of J.J. McCarthy that you can see flashes of a franchise quarterback in. You can see J.J. McCarthy, he's got a little bit of swag. Saw him gritty on his way in that rushing touchdown. And he just, again, same thing as last week. His ball placement is not all over the place like it was. And that's what you need. You saw he had kind of the arm strength for it. His mechanics aren't really there, but there's plenty of quarterbacks in the past that have had poor mechanics and still succeeded. And this is a guy who looks like, in these last few weeks, if he continues to play this good, throughout the foreseeable future of this season. They're not going to make the playoffs. I can almost promise you that. But if he continues to play like that, you're going to have so much more confidence going into the next season with a guy like JJ McCarthy, who's going to lead your team to a victory against a hungry Cowboys team, a very hungry Cowboys team, in a win that Minnesota didn't need, but they got. And if you're a Vikings fan, again, this is going to give you a lot of reassurance and a lot of hope for the future with JJ McCarthy. Next game to look at, this was the Thursday night game. We're going back in time a little bit. And this was Atlanta taking down the Tampa Bay Bucks to move the Buccaneers to 7-7. I actually talked about this one a little bit last week, but I didn't go too deep in it. And Atlanta, just a team who's lacked any sort of identity or staple this entire season. Even when they had Penix, their offense wasn't moving at the level it probably should have been with the kind of weapons they have, or the kind of weapons that they could be, you know. But this game, it just showed that the Bucks aren't like other teams. They're not that caliber of all right, we're going to beat the Falcons because we should. The Seahawks dominated the Falcons in the second quarter last week, and we saw none of that in this game from the Bucks. And there's a clear division. I mean, it's obvious by record now. Bucks are 7-7, Seahawks are 11-3, but there's just a clear separation there. Kirk Cousins, vintage Kirk C, man. 30 of 44, 373 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. And if Kirk Cousins is doing that to your defense, you have to identify an issue. For me, it's probably Todd Bowles. Bijan Robinson, 19 of 93 and a touchdown. He was tearing through this team, but the real hero for Atlanta in this one was Kyle Pitts. He probably came second on our stud of the week, but he was just the entire game consistently getting open on 15, 20-yard routes. And unlike earlier this season, where he would catch the ball, it's 3rd and 8, he'd catch it 4 yards, he needs 4 more, and he'd run backwards. He was looking like a pure athlete, and he would catch it in stride, keep making moves. When they treat Kyle Pitts like a receiver, it works. And it was proved against this Bucs defense. Bijan also had a big receiving game, 8 of 82. He is right up there with CMC in making guys miss after the catch. David Sills, the 5th, 6 catches for him and 78 yards. And this was, without Drake London, they beat the Bucs. But Bucs are still in playoff contention. And they need to fix something if they want a chance in this year's playoffs. Baker Mayfield is not playing that good. And it's going to become interesting because Baker is on a 3-year, $100 million contract. That's pretty darn locked in. There are your $40 million, $50 million a year quarterbacks, but this is $33 million a year. And is it worth it for this kind of production you're getting out of him? I don't think so, personally. I mean, he didn't really play terrible versus this team, but Atlanta Falcons pressure is not one of the most feared front sevens in the league. Most teams aren't game planning for, and credit to their rookie edge rushers. They're doing great, but they're doing solid. But it's just not Baker. Earlier this season would have shredded through this team. They would have brought pressure. He would have moved around the pocket like he was doing so well earlier and hit a dot. Bucky Irving, your guy who you were excited to get back, he might fix a lot of these issues. He's not playing any better than Tucker or White was. And I don't think Sean Tucker or Rashad White were bad. It's just kind of causing a conundrum in this backfield of mid, Bucky Irving, 16 of 60. Rashad White, only 1 carry, and he had 20 yards. Sean Tucker, 4 for 7. He actually did have a touchdown on this one. I think the only bright spots for Tampa this game was Mike Evans. And this was probably the first Mike Evans game since his injury where he was clearly making a improvement for the rest of their team and improving everyone's play. I don't think Baker has nearly as good of a game as he does, which still wasn't a great game, unless Mike Evans makes a lot of these catches. 6 for 132 yards. He was very, he was making the jump balls. He's been a guy where if you throw him a 50-50 ball, it's more like 60-40 in his favor. And he really did that in this one. Emeka Egbuka, 4 for 64. He's been falling off this season. I think this was probably one of his better games over the last few because they've just been kind of rough, before this. But Bucks just you can't lose this game to the Falcons and hope for a good playoff, a good chance in the playoffs. But it's the NFC South. We'll get to the Panthers later, but this Bucks team has a pretty good shot of making it. Next game to look at. This was a tremendous game. Buffalo Bills in a comeback victory. They were down 24-7 to the New England Patriots, but they came back and they fought and they won 35-31. I think Josh Allen played like Josh Allen. He wasn't doing much in the first quarter or the first half. I believe he had only 35 passing yards going into the second half, but he came back 19 of 28, 193 yards, and 3 touchdowns. James Cook, who's been the anchor of this team, 22 carries for 107 yards. Josh Allen also ran it well, And their ability to have just a cluster frick of receivers and just throw them out there. It's Gabe Davis or Brandon Cooks right now. And Josh Allen's ability to make these guys look good is very impressive. And if you want to throw Josh Allen back into the MVP conversation, go for it. I'm not stopping you. By all means, you can do that. I don't know if I'd put him number 1 or number 2. I think a guy who's also in there, Drake May, did look good in this one. I don't think this game was his fault by any means. But Josh Allen, man, he was the reason they won this game. There was a kind of a frustrating play in this one where Tre'Davious White, he picked the ball, but it was definitely PI, in my opinion. But then, Marcus White, he got a pick, same situation. It's heavy contact, and then he just makes a better play on the ball. And then they called PI on that. That felt like some league making the wrong calls to the right people. Like, that was frustrating to see because it's like, all right, you want Buffalo in the playoffs, sure. But they were swing plays. They were kind of it's up to ref interpretation, so I'm not going to throw a freaking fit over it. I think for New England, I think Drake May still looked good. His numbers weren't great. 14 of 23, 155 yards, 0 touchdowns, and a pick. They were able to rely on their run game in this one. Trayvon Henderson, 14 carries for 148 yards and 2 touchdowns, although that number was really inflated by a really, really nice long run he had, which, again, shout out Drake May because the broadcast is talking about this. He ran half the field to make a block for Henderson. It was like that's the guy you want a quarterback, man. Stevenson also did good out of the backfield, 6 carries for 50 yards. Drake May had 2 nice carries for touchdowns, and in total 4 carries for 43 yards. But you kind of did see the Patriots' weaknesses come out in the second half. When the Bills' defense started playing like a capable unit, New England's receivers couldn't do much, and they were putting some pressure on Drake May. And when Drake May doesn't play perfect, Mac Hollins, Kayshon Boutte, and Stephon Diggs aren't really going to get the job done, aren't going to be able to save you, when the defenses start playing a little better. But yeah, this even though, Bills did win and the Patriots did give this one up, this game still felt like 2 Super Bowl contenders going at it. And 2 Super Bowl contenders, fighting and really wanting this one. Playoff atmosphere. But Buffalo, credit to them. They did get it done. I'm not counting out the Patriots, and I'm for sure not counting out the Bills. I would love to see a rematch of this in the playoffs, and I could easily see this being an AFC Championship matchup. Next game to look at, this was a AFC North battle, and this is going to be our turn on Game of Thrones game of the week. This one was quite boring, although there were some entertaining parts of it. The Ravens moved to 7-7 with a 24-0 win over the Bengals, who moved to 4-10. And it's really weird to see this because you just saw the Bengals go in a barn burner versus the Bills, who barely beat the Patriots, and then they go up and put 0 against Baltimore. And I don't think this was all Joe Burrow playing bad. 25 of 39, 225 yards, 0 touchdowns. There was 2 picks, but I don't think they were all his fault necessarily. Chase Brown, 13 of 53. Samaje Perine, 14 of 42. Like, these are guys that, you kind of need more from. And you've seen this offense work at such a high rate this season. 0 points is blasphemy from this team. Jamar Chase was still good. 10 catches, 132 yards, 16 targets is insane. Chase Brown did have a nice day in the receiving game. But, shout out this Ravens defense. This Ravens defense has not been able to have games like this in the past. They really haven't. And just seeing them do this against the Cincinnati offense that is probably ranked top 5, top 10 in the league, very impressive. Zay Flowers has to fix something. He's had maybe 2 good games this year. This one he had drops. He just looked silly. He did have a few big plays, but like that can't be your wide receiver one. There's a reason Lamar's kind of struggling right now, and it's because of his weapons. Talked about Rashad Bateman, just not really being enough. DeAndre Hopkins had one nice grab in this one, but he's clearly not the athlete to hang in with a lot of the very athletic corners in today's game. Derrick Henry was a huge reason why they won this one. 11 carries, 100 yards, 0 touchdowns, but still, he was kind of quiet in the first half, came up huge in the second half when they were just kind of pouring it on him. I think Keaton Mitchell should continue to split carries with Henry. Keaton Mitchell is like a perfect lightning to Henry's thunder. 8 carries for 66 yards. What a game, what a guy, you know? Um, but yeah, this is a huge sign. The biggest takeaway you can take from this is that the Ravens defense can play very well against good offenses. And this team, I think they're probably going to make the playoffs over the Steelers. Who knows? You kind of need this defensive production because Lamar's offense, when it's normally one of the most high powered, he doesn't seem as, at that level that he has earlier. I mean, this game was fine, 8 of 12, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. He wasn't really throwing it that much, but like, you just need that defense to step up when your offense isn't playing like top 3, top 5 in the league, which we've seen them before. And this proved it. This game showed that for sure. Next game to look at, this was kind of, expected to be this huge spectacle game, and it kind of ended up being a little lame, but Chargers defeated the Chiefs 16-13. Chargers moved to 10-4. I would not have predicted that. I wouldn't have seen that coming. This Chiefs games, I thought they probably would be at what? 8-8? Is that where they'd be right now? I don't know. I don't think my math's right, but I did not expect them to be here, but they did it. Um, and this is a good time to bring up our stinker of the week. This is everyone's legs. What a freaking lame week, man. You see Mahomes, this guy's done tremendous with injury luck this whole season. It kind of felt like that's just him. He's just gonna be okay because of this. But such an unfortunate injury for the league, for the Chiefs. And I swear, I opened the comment sections on one of his posts or whatever. How many people are hating on this guy after probably one of the worst moments of his life? If you don't have the guts to at least put the comment, don't like someone else's 3, 4, 5,000 likes on good, he's hurt. What are you doing? How sad is that? That's so embarrassing. Football fans, that's freaking embarrassing. Why do you even watch the sport if you're going to root for greatness to go down? And this sounds like Glaze, but he's just a guy playing a kid's game. It's absurd. Absurd. Freaking, they should be ashamed of themselves. Like, I don't know. And you know dang well if they got in front of Mahomes after that injury, they're, praying for you, bro. Oh, I hope you feel better. Sorry. That's sorry behavior from the NFL fans. Absolutely ridiculous. But looking back at the game, the Chiefs did a tremendous job on defense blitzing the Chargers. They brought heavy pressure, but we've seen Herbert plenty of times this season. And earlier in the game, it wasn't working. It was working for the Chiefs. It wasn't working for the Chargers, but they just strung together enough big plays. They had a really nice drive near the end of the first half, and they just did enough. Amarian Hampton, Kamani Vidal splitting carries in the backfield. That's a fun little duo. Only 61 yards for Hampton and 33 for Vidal. They didn't contribute too much, but they contributed enough. Herbert, 19 of 29, 210 yards, a touchdown and a pick. I'm not going to expect him to have good numbers ever because his supporting O-line is I don't think anyone could put up better numbers than that with the O-line that they have and the pressure that he was facing in this game. Shout out Trey McKitty. Or wait, I don't think that's him. That's Trey Harris. I was thinking of the tight end named McKitty who got really hurt last year. Trey Harris. Shout out Trey Harris, I guess. Oronde Gadsden had a nice one. I'm a big fan of him. Chargers defense stepped up whenever it got to their territory. It really felt like, and this has kind of been an issue haunting the Chiefs this entire season, but like they get down the field really easy and they just weren't able to score. Not even in the red zone, but maybe 40 yards out from the end zone. But yeah, really, nice job. Chargers just do it again to haunt this Chiefs team. Even before the Mahomes injury, which was still super late in the game. And you can't really blame that on them losing this one because They had 13 points before he got hurt. It's just the truth. It's not like Gardner Minshew made him lose points or anything. Um, Still very unfortunate though. And the last thing is that this season, Mahomes has made a lot of guys look really good. Travis Kelce's connection with Mahomes makes Travis Kelce a good tight end. Rashee Rice, their entire receiving unit. I don't know why my mind is completely blanking. Tyquan Thornton, Xavier Worthy, Juju Smith-Schuster. These wouldn't be names that we all know if it wasn't for Mahomes, in all honesty. But that doesn't take away from the fact that he was having a down season for his standards. He wasn't playing as good as the 2021, 2020 MVP. I forget which one. He wasn't playing that good. So their offense wasn't playing that good. But now that you lose Mahomes, your offense is going to become what Gardner Minshew's ceiling is. And that's not nearly as high as where it was with Mahomes. So this team, I don't know if they're going to lose out or if it's going to look bad for the Chiefs. I can guarantee it's not going to look good for this team. Next game to look at. This was the Houston Texans at home taking down the Cardinals 40-20. Another game where Houston looks like a real playoff contender. And man, like it's not been easy to give the Texans this credit after their bad start. But with this defense, with the way their defense is playing, yes, the Cards put up 20 points, but they're able to put up a lot of points against a lot of different teams. With this defense, I'd say they have a good shot against any team in the playoffs. Any team in the playoffs. If their defense is going to hold most of these teams, to low points, their offense has enough talent, produces enough. CJ Stroud's playing real good right now, looking more like the rookie version of him than he has his entire career, probably. 22 of 29, 260 yards, 3 touchdowns. And our Know My Name player of the week, Jahar Jordan. This guy, where was he? They needed that speed out of the backfield. Nick Chubb and Woody Marks have been doing solid things this season. But Jahar Jordan, I hope I'm saying that right. I'm just going to say Jahar Jordan. He had a few runs. He had a 50-yarder in this one where his breakaway speed was undeniable. Undeniable. So if they can sneak that element into their offense some more, I mean, obviously he's not going to be the hidden weapon. Teams have seen him now, but he was a really nice weapon to use in this one. And just, again, another week of 9 out of 10 football from Stroud. Pretty mistake-free football from Stroud. Great ball placement football from Stroud. And if you can add good Stroud play, weapons, we know the weapons. Out of all these things, we know these weapons are going to be solid in the playoffs. Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz, Ogunbowale, he's been having a good one. Jaden Higgins, he's been having a solid season now. If you could add, Stroud playing nice, weapons playing nice, and the defense continuing to be 1 or 2 with Seattle, in the league, that's a record for a team that could make a crazy unseen run in the playoffs. I would not doubt it. I would not be so shocked if this team did that this season. The Cardinals defense looks like butter right now. Nico Collins just slicing through it. Jahar Jordan just slicing through it. This Cardinals defense needs stuff. And it's not like they're lacking the talent. Drafted Walter Nolan. He's looked solid this year. You've got guys like Budda Baker. Zaven Collins isn't terrible right now, But apart from that, it does look a little bleak, and their production on the field has just been give up 40 points every single game and let, Jacoby Brissett throw it a million times. If Jacoby Brissett is our starting quarterback next season, they don't have a chance to make the playoffs. And that's nothing against Brissett. I think Brissett is a tremendous backup quarterback, but he's been their starter. And you could say you could predict or you could theorize that Kyler actually could have played probably at the end of the season. They were just sidelining him. If they move him to a team like the Colts, they need to find an answer quick. And I don't know who's going to be a free agent that's at quarterback. Last season, there was a few guys. Like you saw, it worked for Seattle. And you're not going to have quarterbacks in this draft that you can take, Is Ty Simpson going to be your answer to make the playoffs next season? Because I think their offense is at a level where you should be expecting playoffs from this team next season. This was one of the better, poor record teams we'd seen in a while. Now it doesn't look like that. Some of that blame has to go on Jacoby Brissett. Trey McBride had an electric game. Love his old school, put the shoulder pads into it football. 12 catches for 134 yards. Very impressive. Michael Carter was a leading back in this one. They've just been throwing whoever out there at running back recently. But yeah, another week of great Texans football. So don't be shocked if they win a few playoff games this year. Next game to look at, and this kind of looked like an interesting one on paper. You've got the 7-6 Steelers going against the 6-7 Miami Dolphins. And the Miami Dolphins, with a win, could move into playoff contention. You saw Tua do some nice things in the last few weeks, and the Dolphins came crashing down to earth pretty quick. Steelers get a 28-15 victory. This game actually looked pretty close at the beginning because the Dolphins' defense play was elevated. I didn't think Rodgers was playing bad or anything at the beginning. I didn't think their weapons were even that bad at the beginning. I thought Dolphins' defense was hanging in there real well with the Steelers, but they just kind of couldn't hold it up. Throughout the game, especially with a lot of these Steelers stars stepping up, like Kenneth Gainwell. And I think I'm very happy for Kenneth Gainwell right now because he's given himself a shot at a nice little contract next season. Right now, he's playing on a 1-year, $1.7 million. That's very close to a minimum. It's not exactly a minimum, but he's kind of making base backup money right now for a running back. 13 carries, 80 yards, 7 catches, 46. And he's looked like a weapon that can, be effective against really any defense. Maybe if he went against Seattle or Houston, he'd struggle a little bit, but who wouldn't, right? And for the Steelers team, who earlier in this season, it looked like they were missing something on offense. They were missing, probably a lot of things, but they just needed more. He answered the call. He was a backup who stepped to the plate. He's been in big game situations. He was in the playoffs for them last season, and he did it again. He's doing it again right now in Pittsburgh, and I have to credit that somewhat to like Sirianni and preparing him for that. Aaron Rodgers, another vintage week. Gosh, has he been so efficient and accurate? 23 of 27, 224 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 picks. Jaylen Warren couldn't get much going in this game, but it's a good thing they have Gainwell, right? DK Metcalf looked good when he got targets. I think he's been doing that the last few weeks, and if they want to throw it to DK like crazy, it hasn't seemed to fail them, in the past. Pat Fryermuth had a string of like 3 catches in a row where he looked like the fans are just freaking loving him. You gotta love Pat Fryermuth. I'm definitely a Pat Fryermuth enjoyer. But yeah, for the Steelers, you need your offense to look like they did in the second half for the entire game if you want a chance in the playoffs or at the playoffs. They're probably going to have to win out. I don't see the Ravens losing too many more games, in all honesty. But for the Dolphins, you had a little hot streak going. Mike McDaniel probably saved his job with that, at least if he can maybe get a win or two more kind of going into the end of the season. But your entire team is Devon Achane. There were some bright spots. There were some guys who can play nice from time to time. Jalen Wright had a crazy good game last week. Darren Waller was really good in garbage time in this one. 7 catches for 66 yards and 2 very impressive touchdowns. Jordan Brooks has had a crazy breakout season, and I don't think that one's going to go away. Minka Fitzpatrick has looked great back on this team. You've got guys like Chop Robinson, early pick last year out of Penn State. But your entire offense runs on Devon Achane, and teams know that. And it kind of feels like they don't give him enough production because they know he's there. Every team knows that Devon Achane is the star of this team. And when you don't put it on his back and you start to put it on Tua's, you get the performance he had today. I'm going to read you the numbers. You're going to be like, what are you talking about? It's a great game. 22 of 28, 253 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. I don't know what they were before the fourth quarter, but they were not good. And the interception he had was also not good. Every single one of his interceptions this year has come against zone defense. You cannot be a starting quarterback in the NFL on a second contract, I believe he's on, and just not be able to play versus zone defense. I think he leads the league in interceptions right now. It's very frustrating, but they're probably going to stick with him next year. Because how could they get out of it? He's shown them a few flashes, and what's their other option? They're at 6-8. They can't draft a quarterback this year. Maybe there'll be 3 good quarterbacks, and they'll probably all be gone before the Dolphins get to them. Now, if they do get a Dante Moore falling, if they do catch a Ty Simpson going down there, I highly urge this team to draft them. You took the Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers in like the 7th round last year and expected that to be some pressure on Tua or maybe give him some competition. That's not real. That's not real. And now he's got this starting job locked up, and you're left with what? Him selling a lot of your games. I urge the Dolphins to take a chance on somebody next season because there's clearly some bright spots. There's clearly some flashes that have came through over the last 5 or 6 weeks for them. And if they can tap into that with a good quarterback, they could be dangerous. Next game to look at, Jaguars at home, 48 points versus the New York Jets, who have looked quite awful this season. They only put up 20 in this one. Brady Cook was starting for the Jets. Not terrible for an undrafted rookie, right? 22 of 33, 176 yards, a touchdown, and 3 interceptions. All of those interceptions weren't his fault. Some of them were. Um, but he's going against a good Jacksonville defense. This Jacksonville defense isn't like good in the sense that they won't ever let you score any points, but they can create turnovers. They can be funky sometimes, you know? You're not going to consistently beat them. Like they consistently are not consistently beaten. I guess if that makes sense. Um, Isaiah Davis played good for them. He could be a nice star for the future. But this one was kind of just all the Jaguars. And one of, you know what I'm going to say, the most impressive game I've ever seen from Trevor Lawrence with my eyes. 20 of 32, 330 yards, 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 0 sacks taken. I don't know what happened to Trevor Lawrence. I don't know who snapped it into his brain, but he's just been getting better and better and better over the last few weeks. After he was the problem, now he's the elevator. I said that they needed the run game to work to have any chance at the playoffs. It has been the opposite. The run game has been falling off the last few weeks. You got Travis Etienne going 12 carries for 32 yards. LaQuinn Allen, 4 carries for 11 yards. Baishal Tootin, 7 yards today or on Sunday. But Trevor Lawrence is just so good. He played so good. And if you can get that version of T-Law in this AFC where it's kind of up for grabs, is Houston going to stop this version of T-Law? If this kind of Trevor Lawrence comes out against this Houston defense, which is probably the best defense in the AFC, maybe Broncos, who is stopping him, man? Yes, it's the Jets. Yes, I should probably stop overreacting this much. But it's not like this is just a flash, not lightning in a bottle. He's done this the last few weeks. And if he can carry this over into the next few games, they're going to be a problem. They're going to be a problem. Next game to look at. The Chicago Bears destroyed the Cleveland Browns 31-3. I think my favorite part of watching this game was seeing Luther Burden evolve. You know, it kind of felt like he got enough XP throughout this first part of the season, and he evolved. He's in stage 2 right now. It looks like 6 catches, 84 yards for him. This looks like a completely different version of Luther Burden. This looks like a weapon in the truest meaning. Looks like someone who can be explosive when you need him, be reliable when you need him, make 10 yards out of a screen pass when you need him. DJ Moore also pretty good in this one. Colston Loveland also pretty good. They both had over 60 yards. And for the run game, which has been probably their staple, their statement, you know, what they can rely on this season. In the backfield, Kyle Monungai didn't have a great day. He had 3 yards per carry on 11 carries. But DeAndre Swift stepped up. 18 carries for 98 yards and 2 touchdowns. And it's wonderful if you're a Bears fan to when your main running back can't really, or when one of your 2 main running backs can't play as good as you would hope, your other one can step up and be the lead back that week. And we've seen it go the other way as well. Monungai, I think he outplayed Swift in a Vikings game, and I'm pretty sure they won that one as well. Caleb Williams continues to get better and look good. He's not perfect, I'll say that, but this is the Browns defense. And 17 of 28, 242 yards and 2 touchdowns, no picks is darn good versus a Brown defense that brought a lot of pressure on him in this one. For Cleveland, your guy Quinshon Judkins again has a very inefficient week, 12 carries for 21 yards. They should stick with him next season though, and I think he's going to continue to get better. And teams know that Quinshon Judkins is going to be their workhorse, so it's going to be hard to get him going. And their offense had nothing. It certainly isn't that impressive for the Bears to hold the Browns to 3 points. I think that makes sense. It is very impressive, though, for the Browns to score, or for the Bears to score 31 on the Browns like they did in this one. And finally, for Shedeur Sanders. He has this tremendous game last week against Tennessee. And we saw this week that Tennessee can make probably any quarterback or offense look great. But is 18 of 35, 177 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 3 picks going to make me completely out on Shedeur? Probably not. Should it? Probably not as well. If this was Shedeur Sanders on, like, I don't know, maybe even the Cardinals offense with that surrounding cast, I don't think that he has such a bad game. His issues from college are haunting him like crazy, staying in the pocket, making errant throws when he doesn't need to, just making a lot of unnecessary plays. But I still think he wasn't that bad. Harold Fannin probably continues to be his favorite target. 7 catches for 48 yards. Isaiah Bond had 2 huge ones. Those were some bright spots from Shador if you want to hold on to that, right? But it was not a great game for him. And bad QB play plus bad weapons equals a bad offense. And that's just a recipe you'll see, you know, throughout time. That's not going to change really. But a good win for the Bears, and a win you expected. Steamrolled the Browns. Myles Garrett, though. Myles Garrett did have, what is it, a sack and a half? I think he's 1 sack away from tying the record. So if that's what the Browns want this season, go for it. He will easily win Defensive Player of the Year, I'm sure. Next game to look at, this was kind of a burger game. 29-21. Commanders defeated the Giants in Allegiant Stadium? No. MetLife. In MetLife. Um, this clearly looked like two poor teams going against each other. Just sloppy football from poor teams. There's a lot of poor coverage. There was a good amount of fumbles in this. How many fumbles were in this one? 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess it only. Oh, five fumbles in this game. It was pretty silly, in all honesty. Um, but the Commanders did win. And I'd love to say that like the Commanders showed a higher level than the Giants, but they really didn't. They let the Giants be in this game for way too long, way longer than they should have. At least thought Mariota was all right. He is a backup quarterback, and I do still believe that he's one of the better backups in the league. But 10 of 19, 211 yards, a touchdown, and no picks. Versus the Giants defense isn't the best, especially a Giants defense whose secondary and run game has looked like buns. We saw their run game look kind of poop today, or in this one. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, 18 carries for 96 yards, probably the leading reason why the Commanders got this win. Terry McLaurin being back continues to be big for them. Losing Zach Ertz also continues to hurt them. He was having a nice season, probably one of the nicer seasons he's had since he left being the starting tight end in Philadelphia. But yeah, it is technically a win for Washington, and they finally break their losing streak. That's, you can take that away. Dan Quinn can take that to the locker room. And it's not like this game was a nail biter all the way through. It did kind of feel like Washington was going to win this one throughout, even though the score was close. For the Giants, you have to take everything this season with a grain of salt. You have lost probably your two most talented players on offense, right? Your defense has been dealing with a lack of talent. And hopefully next season when guys get healthy, when you get Scadaboo back, Malik Neighbors, when you can draft some guys who can defend the run or something, which is really weird because their defensive line looks like it should be incredible, you're going to look a lot better than 21 points, 2-12, Tyrone Tracy showed some nice flashes for sure. 15 carries for 70 yards and a touchdown. Jackson Dart looked all right. He really didn't look good, and he made a lot of bonehead decisions in this one. His interception was not smart. He just really wasn't smart with the football. He wasn't safe with the football at all, which you could have seen coming, him coming out of Ole Miss. 20 for 36, 246 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick is not a terrible stat line, though. And like the biggest issue with Dart has been him not taking care of his body. And how many times have we heard that they're drilling it into him to be smart with the body? He's doing the same stuff. 9 carries for 63 yards. Same old with Jackson Dart. He's going to get hurt again. Somebody get on this guy in that building to be careful. Bellinger and Theo Johnson, I think that's a very nice tight end duo, and we saw them produce pretty well in this one, for sure. Theo Johnson, 3 catches for 72 yards. Daniel Bellinger has 3 catches. I think they all came in a row for 35 yards. So not bad. Really not bad for the Giants. Just two sloppy teams going at it. And you can see both these teams, there's a vision, there's a chance, there's a slight glimmer of both these teams elevating their play again next season. I mean, heck, we saw the Commanders in the NFC Championship last year. Next game to look at, this also a very boring or also pretty useless game. Philly dominated Las Vegas 31-0. Again, just another performance from the Raiders where it looks like they are the worst team in the league. My Mormon friend is gone, and I am glad he doesn't have to watch his favorite team in the Raiders look like this. Kenny Pickett, maybe this was his chance to, he's coming up in free agency. Maybe this was his chance to be like a team that the Cardinals would sign or something. Couldn't come through. Can I blame him? No, this was the Philadelphia defense and defensive line, which was tearing at Kenny Pickett. They had 4 sacks in this one. He went 15 to 25, 64 yards, 0 touchdowns, and a pick. Ashton Genty, not much better, 9 carries for 35 yards, but obviously that's what Philadelphia is going to focus on in this one. Brock Bowers looked all right. 6 catches for 28 is kind of devious. Like, that's like 5, was that, not even 5 yards per catch for Brock Bowers. But yeah, last week, even though they lost to the Chargers, said don't count this team out. And this is like one of the first times a good team has pretty confidently beat a poor team in a minute. It's been hard to find those so far this NFL season. And it's really, really, really good that Jalen Hurts got a confident, well played, safe football game in his backpack going into this final stretch. Because they're going to need to win some games. Technically, Dallas is still in it. Technically, Dallas can still make the playoffs if they lose out, which they probably won't. But they're going to need Jalen Hurts to not have 5 turnovers like he did last week. And him going 12 for 15, 175 yards, 3 touchdowns is a great sign for them. Saquon Barkley, also a nice game. He had a few nice runs in this one. 22 of 78. Tank Bigsby, they were giving him a lot of carries against this poor Raiders team, 17 of 57. He looked all right. Goddard, Devonta Smith, A.J. Brown all produced enough. In this game, there's not much to talk about this one, in all honesty. Philadelphia was and is just the better team. Next game we're going to look at, and the owner of Stud of the Week, is the Broncos' 34 to 26 victory over the Packers. What a game this was to watch. Real playoff environment. There was some beef going on between the two teams. And Bo Nix delivered an electric game, 23 of 34, 302 yards and 4 touchdowns. This is a few weeks in a row where Bo Nix has looked like a real playoff caliber quarterback. And he proved it to me today. Man, did I not believe in the Broncos. I saw their wins over the last few weeks were so close. They were leaving it, between these good teams. But that didn't matter in this one. That didn't matter against a Packers team who had started to really elevate themselves and look like they were going to be very dangerous going into this game. I'm not sure who was the favorite. I know it was close, though. I know for a fact it was close, though. And in the game, it was close, obviously. This is also going to be our play of the game. Josh Jacobs, who couldn't catch a ball for his life as a rookie, absolutely mossed. I'm not sure who it was, the DB. A gorgeous catch. Just reaches over the defensive back. Oh my gosh, wonderful, wonderful play from that's really weird way I just did that. Wonderful play from Josh Jacobs and Jordan Love in this one. But yeah, if you're a Broncos fan, this win means so much to you. You move to 12-2 after the Patriots lose. You take that top spot in the AFC. We talked about Bo Nix. Excellence. So much poise for a second-year guy who had none of that last year. Maybe he had a little bit, but he had almost none of this, what he's showing on the field last year. Wonderful from Bo Nix. I'm in. I'm a Bo-lever. I'm in. I'm all in. If I can see this from Bo Nix next few weeks, sure. Broncos to the bowl. And I talked about Texans, and yes, Texans are going to be a very scary outing for this Broncos team. But I think the Broncos defense versus the Houston offense is going to be a little better than the Houston defense versus the Broncos offense. I think maybe Broncos could win that one in a 17-10 sort of fashion, especially if Bo Nix can play like this. RJ Harvey, who has been inefficient all year, continues to be inefficient, but not a terrible game. 19 carries for 65 yards and a touchdown. I'm about to punch my mic. Cortland Sutton, Troy Franklin, Lil Jordan Humphrey, Marvin Mims, all guys that were stepping up. 7 catches for 113 yards and a touchdown for Sutton. 6 for 85 and a touchdown for Franklin. Lil Jordan Humphrey had a nice touchdown in this one as well. And another game where these Broncos weapons who some weeks just don't do anything, do a lot and step up huge for them. And that could be fun. You could see that going into the playoffs, and you could see that really biting them in the butt or really giving them the boost that they need to beat a lot of these good teams. So yeah, I mean, I don't think I'd bet on them to win any of these games, but if things go right like they did in this one, sure. For Green Bay, on their side, obviously going against a very talented defense. Jordan Love did struggle a little bit, 24 carries, 24 attempts, 24 completions on 40 attempts. Excuse my French. 276 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions on 3 sacks. He was all right. So dramatic. I think he was, it's the Broncos defense, and I don't think that the issue this game was Jordan Love. Another injury we're going to have to talk about. Micah Parsons being out for this Packers team is season ending. It's season closing. The story, the chance for Green Bay to make the playoffs relied on their defense being a capable and strong and scary unit. They needed to be a unit that teams had to game plan for and be worried about. And after you lose Micah Parsons, who was kind of a one-man show in Green Bay, yes, he was surrounded by names that we all know, but they haven't been playing up to the level that we've seen them in years past. And losing Micah Parsons could be a death sentence for Green Bay. Josh Jacobs, 12 carries, 73 yards, and he obviously had that great receiving touchdown. I thought he was pretty good. They could have even handed it off to him more if they wanted to. Matthew Golden and Jaden Reed both had 55 yards through the air. Luke Musgrave also had a good game. We've seen these weapons be pretty solid. I said last week that this was one of the better rooms, even without Tucker Kraft, and they still looked pretty solid in this one. But yeah, this is a huge, huge win for the Denver Broncos, and one that's going to make me a believer as well as many Americans. Next game to look at, this was Seattle versus Indianapolis. The comeback of Phillip Rivers didn't go exactly as the Colts probably would have wanted it. He went 18 of 27, 120 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Early in the game, man, he looked pretty sharp. He was getting the ball out real quick because you saw later his arm strength is not there in the slightest, but his mind still kind of is. So shout out Phillip Rivers for that. Jonathan Taylor, 25 carries, 87 yards. And you've got these two performances that are all right. And you've seen that kind of a lot over the last few weeks for the Colts. And you've seen how that's not enough. And it wasn't in this one as well. Because on the other side of the coin, you've got Seattle, where Sam Darnold goes 22 of 36, 271 yards. Zach Charbonnet, 8 carries for 31. Kenneth Walker, 9 carries for 17. And even without that run game, which could be great for them and could be a good asset, and even though they were missing it, they were still able to win. Jackson Smith and Jigbo was huge. Maybe the reason they won this game. 7 catches, 113 yards. How many big plays did he get to set them up in field goal range, which we all know they only had field goals in this one. Jason Myers, tremendous game as well. I believe he was 6 for 6 in his field goal attempts. Perfect accuracy. But yeah, like you just can't have Darnold, you just can't, if you're the Colts, be mediocre on offense because your defense isn't going to be elite. Yeah, holding the Seahawks to 0 touchdowns is pretty good, but you need Jonathan Taylor. Again, I mean, I sound like a broken record right now. You need Jonathan Taylor to have more than 100 rushing yards. That's just the truth of this season. And when you have a guy in Jonathan Taylor and JSN who are going against each other for this Offensive Player of the Year award, JSN made more of an impact at the receiver position when Phillip Rivers was the Colts quarterback. And Jonathan Taylor had an opportunity to get handed the ball 25 times, which he did, and only put up 87 yards. I know it's a lot to expect from a running back, but that O-line has been real good earlier this season. And they've still, they haven't played at that level. It'd be hard to replicate that level at any point. But the Colts are relying on Jonathan Taylor. And when he isn't the best running back in the league, again, broken record right now, they're not going to win games, which they haven't. That's why they're 8-6, and that's why they probably won't make the playoffs this season. Next game to look at, this was the 49ers at home defeating the Titans 37-24. The Titans will make any offense look elite, look great. I mean, shout out Titans defense for making making Brock Purdy and company look tremendous. I think that still, even though it is Titans defense, Purdy had a good game, 23 of 30, 295 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. I mean, that's nasty. CMC continues to be inefficient, but still working pretty good. I'm also a little biased, so take my CMC words for, with a grain of salt. I'd still probably say he's top 5 in the league, which his numbers would not back up, but his play on the field kind of does. He only had 1 catch in this one as well. Pearsall had a really nice game. He was hitting over the middle, slants, posts, everything like that. That's Pearsall's game, and he was really doing that against this broken down Tennessee secondary. George Kittle, 8 catches for 88 yards. Just a rack weapon. Probably the best run after catch tight end in the league, and that's saying something with guys like Trey McBride. But yeah, San Francisco played as good as you'd kind of need them to. Their defense was a little sus, but I also will credit the Titans. The Titans' offense has looked pretty good in the last few weeks, and Cam Ward this week for sure looked pretty darn solid, especially it's good after that Browns game where they did win, but he didn't look the best. 18 completions on 29 attempts, 170 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. That's Cam Ward talking his crap right there. And even though they lost, Cam Ward is going to be the starting quarterback of this team next year. And there's not, too much complaining you can do if you're a Titans fan because he does keep showing these signs. And when Chig Okonkwo is your guy, that's the truth. Chig Okonkwo is Cam Ward's guy right now. It's just not nearly enough to expect anything more. And 24 points against the Niners defense, even though it is super depleted, is not bad from Cam Ward. Tony Pollard continues to try to salvage his career. 14 carries, 104 yards, and a touchdown. Again, very depleted. 49ers defense, but he's trying to keep his job for next year, and he's doing a great job of it over the last few weeks. But obviously, they didn't win, right? They didn't win. They weren't able to continually put up enough points, and their defense was, again, just like butter. But for the Niners, you're 10-4. You're very likely going to make the playoffs. And for me personally, it kind of makes me a little sad, And then one of the games we'll get to in a second, I feel like there are other teams in the NFC who are going to have way more of a shot in the playoffs than the Niners because they're just too injured. And it sucks. This has been a story written over and over and over and over and over again over the last few years. They get too hurt. They get to the playoffs. They don't have the talent in that moment to win the games, so they don't. And again, it sucks. It sucks to see this for the Niners. Nick Bosa going down. Sucks. Fred Warner, who looked like the number one linebacker in football this year, going down. It sucks, but it's the truth. And even though they are going to make the playoffs this season, I don't see them winning the wild card game. I really don't. And it's not an NFC that's, all up for grabs because all the teams are bad. It's kind of because every team's playing pretty solid. And this Niners team, while they are getting wins, they're kind of close against bad teams, and I just don't see them carrying any momentum into the any real momentum into the playoffs that they're going to be able to use to beat a team like the Seahawks, like the Rams. I don't see this Niners team beating those teams. And I'm not sure who they play next week, but I'm sure it won't be easy. In these last few games, they're going to have to play great against good opponents. Let's go ahead and take a look at their schedule because if they have a tough schedule, there is actually a chance. They have Colts, Bears, Seahawks. That might be scary. Oh, because the Colts are going to be hungry. It will be Phillip Rivers, though. Seahawks, I don't see them winning that one. Bears, I also don't see them winning that one. So technically, if the Lions win out, Lions could have a chance to overtake them for that 7th seed, which I guess I'd be rooting for. I really can't see this 49ers team doing anything in the playoffs. Next game to look at, a game I do not want to talk about, but I have a job to do. There's nothing I'd rather be doing more than sitting under the table and weeping my eyes out for the Carolina Panthers. But I have to talk. Tyler Shuck played a pretty good game versus the Panthers. He wasn't mistake-free, but he did look like a guy who you can keep your franchise with for next year, even if you have a chance to get Mendoza, which they probably won't, as they move to 4-10 with a victory over Carolina at home, 20-17. 272 yards for him and a touchdown, no picks. Even with Carolina sending heat a lot, right? The Carolina Panthers' lack of a competent linebacker drives me nuts. And I hope you can hear the hurt in my heart right now, because this team is killing me. When the Falcons beat the Bucs and they moved to 7-7, I got a big glimmer of hope on the outside. We're top of the division. This hasn't happened in so long. We're going to make the playoffs. But deep down in my heart, I knew something was going to go wrong. We'd already lost to the Saints team. There's no way they're going to fulfill the destiny. There's no way this Panthers team is going to get a win that makes so much sense with their record over the last few weeks. And I thought it would be Bryce Young. In all honesty, I thought it was going to be Bryce. But the fact that we wasted a great Bryce Young game, 15-24, 163 yards, 1 touchdown, doesn't look that good, but he was uber efficient. Great ball placement. He had a Mahomes-type play in this game. Bryce Young is like... And I thought it was going to be Bryce, and I thought he'd be the problem, and it would make sense in my brain. But it's the freaking defense again, coming back to haunt this team. Rushing-wise, I like to see Rico Dowdle and Shuba Hubbard getting equal carries. I don't like to see neither of them going over 50 yards, especially when Rico has 16 carries. I mean, come on, man. This Saints front seven is good. I have to give them some credit. I have to. You can't, they've done this in the last few weeks against good teams, but we should be hungrier than this, man. Come on. Rico Dowdle, you were putting up 225-yard games against good teams, and you can't do it against the Saints. Devin Neal has looked like a good, solid running back option for the Saints. I don't think he'll be a starter, in the future, but maybe he could become a utility guy. Devon Vele tore through this team. Chris Olave again owned J.C. Horn. Like, J.C. Horn, can you get over this Chris Olave thing? 6 catches, 85 yards, and a touchdown. Credit to that man. He's looked good this year, and it's been very quiet because he's been on this bad team. Um, but yeah, Shuck, he was just spreading the ball around very well. Vele, Estime, Austin Jr., Juwan Johnson, all these guys over 3 catches, or 3 catches greater than or equal to. um, and it's just a clear problem with the Panthers defensive unit. So I really, really hope they get linebackers. Um, if the O line would have played better for the Panthers, I think they could have won this game. And again, I do have to give credit to the Saints front seven as they've been very disruptive so far this season. But if they could have just been a little better, Panthers probably would have won. And final thought on this one. Yes, the Panthers lost, and I am mostly frustrated because the Panthers lost this game, not any other reason. The Panthers lost, but that Shuck slide where Ransom's coming down and hitting him hard and Shuck slides at the last minute. If you're going to give him that foul, give every quarterback that treatment in the league. I don't want to get mad at the refs. I don't think it was a great call. I don't think it was a great call. Shuck he didn't start his slide till Ransom was already fully committed into a big hit on that tackle. He wanted to make a big play. It's end of the game. It's high stakes. And, credit to Shuck. He did do a great acting job in that one of being like, oh, I'm all hurt. But that one frustrated me. That one made me mad because yes, that kick was beautiful by their new kicker. The Saints new kicker, what's his name? Charlie Smith, but like, who knows if that's 15 yards deeper? Who knows if he has that confidence? Who knows if he make that kick as well? But it was BS. That was very frustrating as a Panthers fan. But if we would have just played better, man, if we wouldn't have wasted a Bryce Young game, next game and the final game we're going to look at today, the LA Rams won a lot of entertaining games in this one. But a very entertaining 41-34 victory over the Detroit Lions. Rams moved to 11-3, and again in my heart, looked like the best team in football. Matthew Stafford, even though he did have a pick in this one, it was a tremendous Aiden Hutchinson play. He went 24 of 38, 368 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. And earlier in this game, what you saw was the Detroit Lions picking apart the Rams, and the Rams kind of struggling to get some momentum on offense. But Sean McVay, and the genius that he is, flipped the script. Amon-Ra wasn't absolutely cooking them like he was earlier in the game. 13 catches, 164 yards, 2 touchdowns for Amon-Ra. Jameson Williams had 7 catches, 134 yards, and a touchdown. But that wasn't enough. Shocking that wasn't enough because the Rams adjusted into the second half. Jahmyr Gibbs only 38 yards, and they still put up 34 points. If they could have got a good Jahmyr performance, which the Rams clearly were focused on stopping Jahmyr Gibbs, and I guess it was enough for them in this one because their offense played so good. But the way they flipped that script, man, the way they got Puka Nacua open over the middle, 25, 30 yards deep, and the way Stafford hit him perfectly might be the best receiver quarterback duo in the league right now. Puka 9 catches, 181 yards. Devontae Adams before his injury looked great. 4 catches for 71. Colby Parkinson Matthew Stafford has made Colby Parkinson look like a good starting quality tight end this year. 5 catches, 75 yards, and 2 touchdowns for him. Kyron Williams doing good things on the ground along with Blake Corum. They weren't even doing much early in the game. Late in the game, they just decided to sprinkle the running backs in there, and I love that they can do that because it makes them so dangerous on offense. They already have one of the best passing games in football, and you've got probably one of the best running back tandems, running back backfields in the league as well with these guys. It's a perfect, ideal situation. You've got your smaller, more agile, quick, great job again to the outside guy in Corum, and you've got Kyron, who has no problem running up the middle. It's wonderful to watch. It's really poetry in motion for this team. And yeah, again, LA was cooking with and without the run game. And the fact that they could just throw it in there was gorgeous. Defense-wise, both these teams did not play great defensively, but I also think both these teams played so good offensively. We talked about Stafford looked good, the running game looked good. I thought Jared Goff also looked very good in this one, especially for Jared Goff standards, and you've got to be a little worried that he's not going to be as, consistent in big games, but this one he really was. 25 throws for 41 attempts. Accuracy is still a little bit of an issue. 338 yards and 3 touchdowns for him in this one. But like I said, the Niners are 10-4. And if the Lions can overtake them in that spot, I think that hunger is still there in that roster. It's still hiding somewhere deep in there for that team. So hey man, if the Lions make the playoffs, I definitely would give them more of a shot to win a wild card divisional round, anything like that game, than like the Niners. Or I think I'd take the Bears over them, probably, yeah. But that will do it for us this week. Again, please, if you guys have anything you want me to talk about, I will do my research. Look at this freaking paper. I care about this crap, guys. I care about you all. Remember that Jesus and God loves all of you guys. I love y'all. Have a tremendous week, and I'll see you back here next time.